the information you have, with the data you have, you can easily do good research and good forecasting. And that itself is exciting. So I'm looking forward to see how other classes will look like. And I hope it will be involving. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hamza. Would anybody else want to share? Okay. Kingstone, Dr. Giva, anybody else? Okay, so I think that it is almost time. And let us begin today then. Welcome back to today's session on NGS Omics Logic Training in Africa. Thank you everyone for joining today. I will pass on the session over to Dr. Harpreet. And thank you for joining. If you have any questions, please put them down in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat and pausing between the session to answer any questions that you may have. I hope that you enjoyed this session, and thank you for joining right now. Over to you, Dr. Harpreet. Thank you.
Thank you, Bipsa. So I welcome you all to in this NGS Omics Logic Training Program. In this 1-month training program, we will learn through step-by-step process. In the first session on Monday, we learned about various platforms that enable us to access complex tools via simple and intuitive interface. At the same time, showcasing the analysis logics in the context of real data sets and exploration of this logics to a variety of the projects and data sets with assistance from the mentors and technical support. So our today's session will be dedicated to the next generation sequencing, that is genomics. And we will focus on the DNA variants and mutations and different types of analysis strategy to get an overview how a genomics data is playing a major role in healthcare. Now let's look at the topics that are scheduled for today. So in today's session, we will learn about shotgun sequencing and then the need of the structures data and associated bioinformatics method. And we will learn how we can process germline and somatic mutations. And we will understand the analysis of mapping and detecting variants. And finally, we will try to interpret the significant and insignificant mutations in the genomics data. So before we start with the topics that we will cover today, I just wanted to know how everyone is doing. And are you facing any issues with access and the finishing with any assignments? Please let us know in the chat. So just if everybody have access to these platforms, just post your answers in the chat. So just to let everyone know, and especially those who are joining for the first time, at the end of at the end of the last session, we have asked you to complete some of the assignments. So how many of you already completed this assignment? So just post your answers. Okay, Kingston, Joe. So that's great. And anyone else who have completed these assignments?
Yes, Danai has also completed. So
and that's great.
That's nice to see. Yes, there are more people.
Oh, that's great. So now let's look at the progress of the entire class that you have might and more about you and the issues that you are might be facing. So now let's go to the progress. So this is a accumulating progress of entire class, and these bar plot indicating the points that are accumulated by the entire class, and most of the participants that involve the points that they have gained during this course. And if we look at this plot, so what it indicating? Uh, this is overall plots indicating the how many points that you have gained during this course, and the yellow color plot is indicating the points that were that gained during the any activity that you have performed at educational platform, and then this blue color, light blue color, indicating the activities of any one of you that have performed at our T-Info platform server, and this pink color indicating that how many points that you have gained during any activity that is performed on Omics Logic Code Playground. So we are seeing after the last session on the Monday, we are looking at that some of you have explored these different platforms and try to complete this activity, and it looks great. And we would like to congratulate every one of you who are in this course and who have tried to complete their courses and try to perform different activities. And if any one of you have not go through these courses, please uh, go through these courses and explore these platform and complete your different activities. That's how you will learn about these courses and this program. Now let's look at some of the top performers. And Kingston has already completed, I think, nearly 3,000 points, and I think he have gained 1,000 points from completing the courses, and other points has and some of points are gained through this coding platform. And apart from that, I think Ioneer has also performed quite well, and he's also completed some of his courses, and he has gained nearly 2,800 points. And similarly, Aditoy, I think he is also performing quite well, and he had completed his, he had gained 1,000 points from the educational platform, and 100 points from, I think, completing some particular course code activity at Codeomics Logic platform. And then Naibo has also started his programming, and I think he has completed one of his program already. And apart from them, I think please others who have yet not started any activity and have not started for any course, please, if you want to learn and want to understand all these program in deep, so you please go through these courses and just perform different activities at server as well as at Codeomics Logic platform. And I am looking at this Aditoy profile, and Aditoy, you should upload your, I think you can upload your profile picture, and you can complete your profiles here. So overall, as these are the top performers, we would like to congratulate them, and we are also encouraging to others to please start your courses and gain your points. I think based on the points that you have gained, you will get different research excellence certificates. So go to these courses and try to understand these courses by doing yourself. We can help you in all those activities. So just go through these courses. And this is nice to see the progress of every one of you, at least, who have started. I mean, and just since the last session, and it's a great progress. So as you know, as a part of this program, you will have access to number of the courses. It could be related to genomics, transcriptomics, metagenomics, then machine learning and biomedical data. And you will have access to these all resources that will help you additionally to understand the material before trying to apply the techniques to any of the data sets. So it is important to go through these lessons and the courses and do the quizzes which will reinforce the terminology and clarify the topics that we are covering. So before going ahead, let's review what we have learned in our last session. So in the first session, we started with the history of the genomics data and learned about the tremendous biomedical data growth. Then we have learned about the important characteristics of the big data and why we call this NGS data as the big data. Subsequently, we'll have learned about various aspects of data-driven approach, including its importance in the biomedical research. Next, we learned about different popular omics layers of NGS data. Then we had an overview about NGS sequencing approaches, and we have learned how various types of information, NGS data, is stored in different file formats like FASTQ, FASTA, GTF, and SAM or the BAM file. In the later part of the session, we had tried to understand a biologist perspective and his approach for a research to address any research problem. Then we look into how big data and bioinformatics approaches can be helpful for the precision oncology. At last, we have tried to demonstrate for the visualization of NGS data using T-Bioinfo platform. And we have also demonstrated how we can load a data in R using Omics Logic Code Playground. Okay, so last time we had tried to provide a demonstration on genome visualization pipeline using T-Bioinfo platform. So to address the issue that we have faced in the last session, we will try to run this pipeline for the genomic data with the reference genome for today. As some of the we were unable to complete this pipeline last time because of some of the issues. So just to clarify, last time we tried the visualization using the PDX data that has small amount of the reads for the demonstration. So this time we will visualize genomic data using another project, cell line project that has full length genome. So to look at, so let's go to T-Bioinfo platform and run this analysis. So I am asking every one of you, please, come with me at the T-Bioinfo platform so that you, if you have access, and I think most of you must have access. So let's run this pipeline on T-Bioinfo platform. So just let me know.
Yes, I think just to interrupt, sorry. So to address, like if you don't have the access yet, we will be emailing. So just to tell that some of the faculty from Leeds City University have joined recently, and today we are going to email them the access. So for those who don't have the access, please look at the tutorial and then repeat. You can repeat it later, and we will be sending you the entire video of this session as well. So yeah, you can go ahead now. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I think if any some of you have access, just let me know whether you are able to just are at this particular platform. So just let me know, are you there?
Yes, you can write in the chat if you're there. So yes.
So yes, just let me know if If some of you have already able to log into this server, okay, that's great. Admin Kingston, that's great. And then Pulverse and Nambu, yes. So any one of us, if you are there, just let me know, right in the chat. Suppose yes or there. I know, that's great. So now let's start. If every one of you able to just log into this server. So as we know, we will find various sections of NGS data analysis at our T1 platform. So for the running the NGS, running the pipeline for NGS data visualization. So we will go for the demo. And under the demo, you will find various options. So we will go to this first demo, that is RNA-seq cell line project. So every one of you able to, so you will find this under the RNA-seq, this first under the first option under the NGS data, that is under transcriptomics. You will find here a drop down. So if you click on this drop down, then you will find 3 different demos. So just click on the first demo. So every one of you able to find this particular pipeline? Okay, so every one of you able to find this pipeline, demo pipeline for RNA-seq? Okay, that's great. So as this is a demo pipeline, so we have already provided the data here. So why with clicking the start, we are uploading a particular data. So if in this data, there is a cell line subtype, cell line clinical subtype data, and we are providing the sample SVL files for this particular data, where we are providing raw reads. I think John is not able to log into the platform. Whether John, do you have the access to this platform? So once you have uploaded your files, in this case, this is the demo pipeline, so we don't need it. Okay, so once you click on this, you can perform pre-processing steps. So I'm here I'm not going to perform any pre-processing step here. Once uploaded the sequences, that is FASTQ files. The FASTQ files contain the read sequences. And then I'm skipping this pre-processing step as we are just doing a visualization. So here we don't need a pre-processing. So then we are actually, next step that we are heading towards, that we want to map to align our read sequences on a reference genome. So here you can use different algorithms. So I am here using Butai2T. So Butai2T, what it will do, it will align your reads on a reference genome. So once you align your reads on a sequence, then next you can go the next option that is getting highlighted, that is visualization. So after clicking this visualization step, we will actually going towards the JBROS. I think I have last time told you, all of you, that we can visualize genomic alignment using different servers, including JBROS, and then IGIB, and then UCSC. The different browsers are available where you can visualize your sequence alignment. And then once every one of you able to do this step so far, are you with me? So just post your comment in chat so that I can finish this pipeline. That's great, Matthew. Okay. So now we will end this pipeline by clicking on the end. We will ultimately completing this pipeline. So once we completed this pipeline, you will find there are different options. That is, under the output files, you can find different output files. But before that, because we want to visualize the genome, so under the genome visualization, you will find a blue link, that is blue link where it is written as visualization. By clicking on this visualization, we will moving towards the JBrowse, where we can visualize the data, and we can check how these sequences are aligned on a reference genome. So it's getting loading. So let's wait till it getting loading. Okay. So every one of you able to reach to this particular JBrowse who are running the pipeline with me? That's great, John.
Maybe Harpreet, if you can share the JBrowse link.
Okay, so you can click on this. You can also click on visualization option that you will get after the ending your pipeline. So I'm also sharing this link with you, where you can also visualize your alignment of the reads on a reference genome. So every one of you able to reach to this site, JBrowse site.
Dr. Harpreet, I'll just want to interrupt 1 minute. If you enter the username and password, please make sure that there is no space. Often that is the reason. I think that could have been the reason with Danai as well. If there is a space after the username or password, then it is sensitive, so case sensitive as well as it will take that extra space as a wrong password or a wrong username. So you have to be just careful. Just copy paste it of the email that I sent you. And I'll also check your problem, Dr. Giva, and get back to you. Yes, Dr. Harpreet, please continue.
Okay. So every one of you able to reach to this particular page, or are you there with me so that I can let you know? So this is a sorry. This is the reference genome, and we can see there are the different reads that are getting aligned to this particular reference genome. Beside, you will find the different peaks. So these peaks, what it indicating? So as last time I have told you that the higher the peaks, it indicating that there is high coverage of that particular region. So here, as we can see, this is the highest peak. There are the large number of the reads that are aligned to this particular genomic region. So higher the coverage, high is also the confidence. And apart from that, as we can look into other areas, so if there is less number of the reads that are getting aligned to a particular region, you will find there is a less coverage. So the less coverage means there is less confidence. And apart from that, by clicking on this particular read, so you can even get the detail, what is it read is all about. So it will provide you complete detailed information regarding the particular read. Here you can find what is the length of this particular read, that is here how much length for this particular read is indicated by this length on a reference genome, that is 150 base pairs. Beside, you can also find a sequence of this particular read. Then you can find a score that belongs to a particular nucleotide. As I have told you, that these are the FASTQ files. So in the FASTQ file, there is always a quality score is provided correspond to each nucleotide. So this is how the complete detail you can find. You can find a different position of that particular read on a reference genome. So this is complete information you can get on this server, that is JBrowse, by when you align your sequence read on a reference genome. So every one of you able to get this? Just let me know. I mean, are you able to go through this? Okay, that's great, Kingston. Anyone other who have access, able to just analyze your alignment of your reads on a reference genome? And you can play around with it as we are here indicating this particular reason. So you can even change the desired sequence. So on clicking on a different region, you can find where it is, but are the reads that are getting aligned at a particular region. So you can play around all these on a JBROS on a lot of things. So this is the quality. From here you can find which has a maximum coverage, large number of the reads that are getting aligned to a particular reference genome region, as also there would be the high coverage. So this is how you can visualize alignment of your reads on a reference genome using this JBROS. So okay, so if every one of you able to do this, so let's move ahead. So let's go back to the presentation. So this is how you can perform complex analysis or complex analysis of NGS data using a STIB-info platform in a simplest manner. So now let's focus on today's session, that is next generation sequencing and its use in the genomics. Okay, so let me ask, whenever we listen about a term genomics, what comes into our mind? So first thing that comes to our mind whenever we listen about this genomics term, that is genes or ATGC codes. So just to revise the basic understanding of this DNA and the genes. So these genes pass from a cell to cell, and there are about nearly 3.2 billion these letter codes that is available in a whole human genome. Then these genes encode nearly 22,000 of proteins. Genes are made up of a biochemical entity that is called a DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid. And this DNA, I think every one of you are familiar with as you are from this. I mean, every one of you belongs to I think a biology from a biological background. So you must have know about the DNA. So it is a double helical structure where two long strands are twisted around each other. And backbone of each of the DNA strand is made up of the two major molecules, that is a sugar and a phosphate. Okay, can anybody tell me that which kind of sugar is present in a DNA? As you are mostly a biologist, or you must be familiar with the DNA. So which sugar? Yeah, deoxyribose, Kingston, and anyone other? Kingston is right. So now let's understand DNA and the nucleotide in a more detail. A DNA is made up of a nucleotide. So a nucleotide is made up of the three entities, that is a sugar, that is deoxyribose, then a nucleotide base, and then is a phosphate group. The nucleotides are joined to each other in a chain via covalent bonding. That is between a sugar of one nucleotide and the phosphate sugar of the one nucleotide and the phosphate of the other nucleotide, subsequent nucleotide, and resulting to form a generate a alternating sugar phosphate backbone. So nucleotides of two complementary strands are connected together, we call these as base pairs. The base pairing connecting the two strands of DNA, whenever referring to the number of the base pairs contained in a sequence of the DNA, we are referring to the this connected bases. Each strand of DNA molecule consists of a sequence of the bases that is complementary to the nucleotide bases in the other strand. So pairing between the complementary bases give rise to characteristics of the double helical shape. So there are the 4 different types of the nucleotide bases are present in our DNA, that is adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine. Can anybody tell me that which base pairs are paired with each other and with how many, with what kind of bonds they are connected to each other in the DNA? So I am asking a simple question. Which in a DNA, which nucleotide base paired with the other nucleotide base and with how many hydrogen bonds? Yeah, that's great. 80, it is a double bond. Yeah. So adenine connected to the thymine through a 2 hydrogen bonds. I think most of all of you are correct. And cytosine paired with the guanine through the 3 hydrogen bonds. I am pretty sure all of you know about the central dogma of molecular biology. So it describes the 2-step process, that is transcription and a translation, where the information that is stored in a DNA first is transferred to the RNA by a process that is called a transcription. Then the information that was stored in the RNA that gets transferred to ultimately the proteins by a process that is called a translation. So with the advancement of NGS technology, there is an ever increasing number of the genomes that are getting sequenced, and the cost of the sequences getting drastically decreased. That is clearly indicated by this graph. So with during the year 2003, when the first human genome gets sequenced, and then in the year around 2007, the next generation sequencing technology get emerged. So then there is the first tumor that was sequenced around the year from 2000 to 2009. So then around the 2010, there are the tumors that are getting sequenced. So by the year 2017, it was indicated that there are the more than 20,000 tumors samples that get sequenced, and it was predicted that by the year 2022, approximately 1 million genomes will get sequenced. So with the advancement of this NGS technology, the number of the genomes are getting sequenced every year is increasing, while the cost is decreasing with the time. So now let's understand what type of NGS sequencing techniques are available. So let me ask, how many NGS sequencing techniques you people know, or you have learned here about that? So okay, I'm not getting any answer. So let's start. There are the major 3 categories of NGS sequencing. One is targeted sequencing, then whole exome sequencing, then whole genome sequencing. Illumina is a profiling technique. So in the targeted sequences, we investigate a specific region of a genome or a sample. Here, it provides us with a high coverage and it is an in-depth look at what is happening within a specific region. So such localized sequencing might be helpful if you wanted to identify mutation that you suspect lead to a particular disease condition like a tumor. So target sequencing usually works best with the between 40 to 400 genes. It is ideal sequencing technique when you're looking closely at the small specific region of a genome. It provides you high coverage of a gene that allow us to observe single base variation such as insertion or the deletion. Besides, it also generates a small amount of data that potentially allowing for an easier analysis than some of large-scale sequencing techniques. While in case of the whole exome sequencing, it examines the genomic DNA on a large scale. We can run whole exome which focus on protein coding genes. So in case of the whole exome sequencing, coverage get decreased, that we get intermediate coverage. While in case of the whole genome sequencing, it gives us broadest view of genome sequences. And the major advantage of whole genome sequencing is that it allows us to see both coding as well as non-coding regions. And it provides us with more information about information that is stored within a genome. But in comparison to the targeted and whole genome sequencing, it had the lowest coverage. As last time we talked about the sequencing reads. So based on the sequencing reads, we have there are different types of sequencing reads like small reads. So usually it is 100 to 150 base pair. Still, there is considered that you can take 250 to 300 base pairs. While in so short reads are the advantage of the short reads, they are sufficient to read sequencing application. And whenever you want to reference genome, you want to sequence a reference genome. Then the longer reads are beneficial. The size of the longer read is could be greater than that 300 base pair, and they are beneficial for de novo genome assemblies and to analyze structural variations and detection. And based on the type of the sequencing reads, that is whether it's the short reads or the long reads, in AGIS technologies have generated evolved with various types of sequences. So for the short read sequences, there are the different short read sequences. To analyze the long read sequences, then there are the other sequences that are specific for the long read sequencers. So now let's understand of the concept of the mutations. Usually we consider DNA is incredibly stable molecule that allow us to code, to maintain and ultimately pass the information to the offsprings. So despite the stability, there are some of the instances where when the sequences within the DNA start changing because of multiple factors. So these changes that are taking place in a DNA that are not usual changes, we call them as mutations. So these mutations may have their determinant effect on DNA code. Then the type of mutation can be characterized by the how a particular DNA or sequence getting changed, or what kind of the changes that are taking place within that particular sequences. For instance, in a point mutation, there is alteration only at a single position. So under the point mutation, there are the three different types of mutation. It could be a substitution, it could be insertion, and the deletion. So let's look at one by one. In the substitution, when a one nucleotide is replaced with some other nucleotide, that is called a substitution. Then in case of the insertion, when there is a addition of extra nucleotide within a particular genome sequence, that is called an insertion. While in case of the deletion, when a particular nucleotide gets deleted from a sequence, we call that kind of point mutation as deletion mutation. Besides those point mutations, there are various other kinds of mutations that affect single bases of the DNA. So then there is change more than a single base. These mutations can affect whole section of the DNA. Ultimately, it can alter the gene expression and the protein function. So for example, in case of the insertion, when a sub part of a sequence getting inserted within a particular reference sequence, so that alters the functioning and the structure of a DNA. So as here, there are the duplications of particular region in a taking place. In case of the inversion, so when a sequence of the bases reverse its orientation within a DNA sequence. So like here, we can observe, we can look at that if this particular sequence get reversed within a sequence, so that is called an inversion. While in case of the translocation, it can happen in two different ways, within the same chromosome or within a different chromosomes. So now let's look at some of the mutations that can be encountered and impact they have on a genome. So for instance, in case of the missense mutation, so there is a genetic alteration in which a single base pair substitution alter the genetic code in a way that it produces an amino acid that is different from the original amino acid. So these some missense variants will can alter the function of a structure as well as the function of a protein. And these kind of missense mutations were also called as missense variants. Then in case of the nonsense mutation, there is change of a single DNA base that create a stop codon within a particular genomic sequence that eventually when this get translated into a at a RNA level, so it will terminate the translation process. So this results in a shortened protein that may be functional or may not be remain a functional after this particular mutation. Then in case of the frame shift mutation, it occurs when there is an addition or the deletion of the mutation resulting in a change to the gene reading frame. So that include group of the three bases that encode for an amino acid. So the change in the reading frame ultimately alter the grouping of the bases, subsequently change the whole sequence of amino acid sequences. So as a result, encoded protein can become a non-functional protein. So a change at even a single base level can be enough to change the type of protein that it's going to express. So now let's see how it happens. So each amino acid is represented in the DNA in the form of a codon region that is set of the three nucleotides. For instance, it could be a triple T, TTC, TTA. So that result in once there is change at a codon level or the DNA level, so it result alter the structure and the function of that particular genome, and it will ultimately result a different amino acid. For instance, if you look at this table, here we can see how changes in a at single nucleotide can ultimately result its impact on an amino acid that it's going to express finally. Thus, both insertion, deletion, or any kind of mutation can result to change the sequence of the DNA. Eventually, that will lead to the change in the sequence of the RNA. That will result ultimately the change of the amino acid sequence at the protein level. So that can alter the structure as well as the function of a protein. So if you have any question till now, just let me know before heading towards next. So have you, I think you must be familiar about mutations and its type. So if you have any question, till now, you can post your question at our chat box so that we can look into that. So do you have any question regarding mutations? Okay, so if you have not any question, let's move ahead. So far, we have tried to understand the concept of mutations and type of the mutations. Now let's understand why and how these mutations play a significant role in cancer development, or better we can say how they can drive the tumor formation. Here mutation can be of different types, that could be acquired or the germline. Acquired mutations are common specifically in case of the cancer, while germline mutations are not that common. As we know, there are various types of the important genes that play a key role in the cell cycle and the regulation of the cell growth. So any disturbance of those genes results in the dysregulation of the cell growth and eventually enhance the tumor development. So now let's understand what about these genes and whose mutation could result in a tumor development. So there are the three types of the genes in which if mutation takes place usually results in a tumor development. That is tumor suppressor genes, then oncogenes, and then DNA repair genes. So what are these tumor suppressor genes? So in a normal cell, these genes eventually regulate the cell growth. Thus, they are considered as protective genes. So if there is any mutation in these tumor suppressor genes, and it gets inactivated, it will alter its normal functioning, that is regulation of the cell cycle or the cell growth. So it eventually results in the uncontrolled growth that is ultimately eventually responsible for the formation of the tumor. So can anybody give me an example of tumor suppressor genes? As most of you belongs to a biology. So can anybody let me know about the examples of the tumor suppressor genes that you know? Yeah. Adime. That's great. P53. Anyone else?
Dr. Giva says RB.
Yeah, that's correct. So then the oncogene. So what are these oncogenes? Normally, these genes are responsible for the cell growth or the cell cycle. So if any mutation in them, it results in promoting their normal function, that is they enhance the cell growth. So this will ultimately result in the uncontrolled growth. So these key players can turn a normal cell to become a cancerous cell. So anybody can give me an example of oncogenes? Can anybody give me an example of any oncogene? Okay, so if I'm not getting any answer, so one of example is EGFR, that is epidermal growth factor receptor. Yeah, MYC, that is right. And then epidermal growth factor in human receptor 2, that is HER2 and MYC. So these are the example of oncogenes. So then it's the DNA repair gene. In normal cells, these genes are involved in repairing the changes that taking place within an human or DNA, within an human or any organism. So if there is any mutation, these DNA repair genes, that will halt its functioning, that is repairing of any kind of mutation or changes that is taking place at genomics level. So this is how, if any kind of mutation in these or any of these genes take place, so it will result the uncontrolled growth of the cells. So now let's try to understand what could be the approach for the diagnosis based on a whole exome or whole genome sequencing. So there are the four major steps, that is pre-analytical, Then pre-analytical step that is involved initial testing strategy. So based on which we can, based on the phenotype, sometimes we analyze that particular mutations is affected or unaffected status. Then it next it moves to the analytical that under the wet lab. So where usually this involves generation of the sequencing data from a sample or a patient. Then next step that is moved under the analytical dry lab or the bioinformatics. So here are different steps like short read alignment, then the genotyping, then next involves the annotation of those mutations analysis, then what kind of variant, if there are different variants, then which variants are important, that is called variant filtration. So you can eventually, as large number of the variants are available, so you filter out important variants. So then last step involves the post analytical. So how you interpret ultimately your genomic data and data. So you can find which what are important mutations and which are not. So that is involved ultimately based on the judgment of a particular and a researcher, clinician, or any kind of person that is involved in the post analytical step. So it involves the judgment of that particular person. So what could be the major challenges in this process? Let's understand and each step what could be the major challenges that obstacle the obstacle the use of the diagnosis based on whole exome or genome sequencing. So at the first step, that is under the pre-analytical stage. So here it could be there is error for the affected or the unaffected status that may be assigned incorrectly. So as you are analyzing based on the phenotype, so it could be still a major challenge. So if it get incorrectly assigned. So like a sequence variant detected in our family members may be mistakenly labeled as unaffected as it is like a heterozygote. So then under the analytical wet lab step, so here what could be the major challenges? That is, it could produce a false negative. That is, some of the reasons that cannot be sequenced will not generate any kind of variant for the downstream analysis. So then involve the steps that are involved the bioinformatician. So at each step, first at the short read alignment step, here it could produce a false positive results. Like what happens if a short read aligned at an incorrect position at a reference genome? So it can be incorrectly identified as a mutation. Then at the genotyping, so certainty decrease with the low coverage. Thus, you can usually discard those reasons that have low coverage. So sometimes it happens there might be a low coverage, but that might be otherwise important reasons. Then it's regarding the annotations. Errors may occur due to the outdated information. Then some of annotations may be based on a software. So it could be if any error at the software level, so then you can annotate it incorrectly. So then at the level of the variant filtration, so errors can occur if your filtration assumptions are not violated. Then as the last post-analytical step, that is even more important. As in this step, it involves the judgment of a particular analyst, researcher, or the clinician. So there is a risk for a considerable amount of wrong judgment and extrapolation of particular analysis, which can happen especially in case of the rare or the new variants. So this is still a challenge, different challenges that whenever we go through different steps for the analysis of the data. So if we want to use this particular technology, that whole exome or whole sequencing for a diagnosis or the diagnosis purpose for any disease. So if you have any questions till now before moving ahead, just post your questions in the chat box. So, okay, if you have no questions, so let's move ahead. Now here, let's look at the research project from where we have obtained.
Dr. Harpreet, we do have a question from Lordstown.
Oh.
What does a wet lab mean?
So wet lab means that experimental lab where you generated your sequencing data. That doesn't involve in silico analysis or the analysis based on a computer system or that are not involved the bioinformatics. That is, we usually call a wet lab, that is called experimental lab. I hope I'm able to address your question, Akano. If you get this my point, just let me know.
Are there
Akano,
any questions? Yeah. Was it clear to you, Akano?
Okay. So
Not hear it.
let me.
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain it again. Wet lab is actually meaning that you are involving an experimental lab. So experimental lab where you actually performing your analysis, like you are performing any experimental on a sample. So based on the experiment or the samples where you are performing your whole experiment, like where you are generating or isolating your genome or the whole genome sequence, that is called a wet lab. So in comparison to the wet lab, dry lab, where we don't involve any experimental, we perform our experiment or analysis based on a computer analysis, or we called it a bioinformatics. So wet lab is where exactly experiment is performed. Okay, that's great, Akano. So now let's look at the project, that is Projectera frugiparida or SF cell line, from where we have obtained data set for our mutational analysis for our today's sessions. So the Projectera is a moth native, that is native to the tropical region of the Western Hemisphere from the US to the Argentina. And then SF9 cells are clonal isolates of the ovarian tissues of Projectera frugiparida and SF21 cells. And these are commonly used in insect cell culture for the recombinant protein production using Vicalovirus. Then SF9 cells can be used for both transient and stable protein expression. So as an example, we will consider SF9 cell lines that is used for the development and the manufactures for the biologics product. This cell line has been sequenced by various research groups for the agriculture or for the biotechnical use. In our analysis, we will start by taking submitted files from the NCBI. You can go through this course, which we have made available for you to get better understanding regarding this particular cell line project. Okay, so Philip have one question. What does an in silico research? In silico, that we are not doing in a lab, that we are doing on a computer system. That is called in silico. That is also bioinformatics. We, in the bioinformatic analysis, we called it in silico research. I hope you got your answer, Filippo. It's clear to you? Is it clear to you, Philip? Okay, that's great. Now let's move ahead. So analysis of genomic data involves various steps like pre-processing that removes technical duplicates and adapters from the sequence reads. Then involves next the mapping, that is mapping of the sequence reads on a genome. So here we align reads to a particular reference genome and annotating the sequence if a GTF file is available. Then the next step on a T-bioinfo platform, there are different algorithms that can perform variant calling. So what is a variant calling? It determines which position have changed a nucleotide from the reference genome and differentiating consistent changes from the random. Then it filter for differential variant calling. It filter for the significance, that it accounts for variety of the factors that can make variant more or less significant, or that will depend on its coverage, overall mutation load in a particular sample. Then we calculate these differences, then may ultimately compute the significance of variance between two groups and identifying the one of the interest, that we can perform using differential variant calling. Then next step that involves the annotation. It compares the identified variants with the reference database to see if the information exists about this variant or not. So finally, we usually perform post-processing analysis. So where we try to get which mutations are significant or non-significant. So if every one of you, now let's look at how we can perform mutational analysis using T-bioinfo platform. So let me demonstrate it. So let's go back to this T-bioinfo platform server. So on the T-bioinfo platform server, under the genomics region, there is a mutation variant, that is parallel analysis of mutation variant data. So if every one of you able to log into this server, so just let me know, are you there on the server? So you just post your answer yes or there on a chat, so that I can understand you are on you able to log into this server and you able to reach this particular login page. Okay, that's great, John. Okay, Matthew, Ademe. So okay, so here you will find different pipelines under the genomics. So as we want to perform mutational analysis, so we will go to this third step, that is mutational variant or parallel analysis. So once if you click on this, you will find this demo pipeline. So while clicking on the demo pipeline, in this pipeline to perform mutational analysis, we have taken the data from the cell line project that I have already mentioned you, that is SF9. So as this is the demo pipeline, we have already have our data, uploaded data. So once by clicking on the start, we can find here the different files. So it doesn't show as so okay. Once we click on this, you can find the input files here. So what kind here you will upload your reference genome file as well as the sample files where you want to understand mutational analysis. So on clicking on that, we are actually ultimately uploading our files. So then the next option that are getting highlighted, that is PCR clean. So PCR clean is a pre-processing step which involves the removal, it removes the PCR duplicates. So once as we want to perform extensive analysis, so we are in this case we are performing pre-processing step. So in the case of visualization, we didn't perform that step as we are not going towards extensive analysis. We just we are doing the visualization. In that case, we skip that step. So after clicking on the OK, we have performed PCR clean that removes PCR duplicates. Then the next step that is getting highlighted, that is under the mapping. So here with the Bochai T2, we are aligning our sequence reads on our genome. So after clicking this, we will able to align our sequence on our reference genome. Then the step that is getting highlighted, that is under the differential variant calling. So under the differential variant calling, we can analyze which are variants that are actually getting differential between two kinds of groups or two kinds of the samples. So here we are using a Tistelka algorithm. SELCA is a method that for somatic SND or small indel detection from the sequencing data of the matched normal and tumor samples. This method usually uses a Bayesian approach, which represents a continuous allele frequency for both tumor and normal samples while leveraging the expected genotype structures of the normal samples. So once we initiate this step, on clicking on this step, we are just performing differential variate calling. Then the next step that is getting highlighted, that is SMATIC snipper. So this SMATIC snip, what it does, it employs a Bayesian comparison of the genotype likelihood in the tumor and the normal sample as determined by the germline genotype algorithm that is implemented in the MAP software package. So once you click on that, then you will get this option that is end. So with end option, we will complete this pipeline. So every one of you able to run this pipeline till this step, just let me know that. Okay, okay, so that's great. So let's click on the end, it will complete our pipeline. So here once we complete our pipeline, and it will give us an output file folder. So under the output files, you will find various, you will find this zip folder. So clicking on the zip folder, so let's download this zip folder. So everyone of you able to get this folder, output folder. So let's look at what kind of files that we are getting after the mutational analysis using this T-bioinfo platform. Okay, here we have obtained two kind of files. One is BCF files and the otherwise we have obtained an Excel file. So I'm opening this Excel file so that we can understand what kind of results. In BCF, there is complete mutational analysis results. So we are not going to that. We are heading towards this cell line somatic header file. So let's understand what kind of result we have obtained from this mutational analysis. So if we are looking, we have got three kinds of seed. One is SMATIC snipper, second is header, and third is key substitution. So under the SMATIC snipper, we have obtained differential variate calling tables between tumor and the normal sample. So if you look at this table, so every one of you able to obtain these results. So if we're looking at this table, it have multiple number of the columns. I think there are the 26 columns that we are getting. So let's focus on some of the columns that are displaying important information. So first column that representing the that is mutation taking place on which chromosome. So then it indicating the position of that particular mutation on a chromosome. That position column indicated that. Then under the reference base, it indicated what was the initial nucleotide that was present at the reference genome. So then in the second, you have tumor sample. So this fourth column, that IUV genotype of the tumor. So indicating at that particular position, what kind of nucleotide is present here in the case of the tumor sample. For instance, in case of the reference base, this G was get replaced in case of the tumor with the R. So then there are the normal sample. Again, if we looking at this particular position, it indicating it remains a G. So you can compare your normal sample with the reference. It's a one or same thing. Then you can at the in the tumor sample, you can understand what kind of mutations is taking place. So then the most important column that we are getting, that is SMATIC score. So this SMATIC score is exactly indicating whether mutations are significant or not. Higher the score, that indicate the mutation is more significant. So as we can look at this particular highlighted here. So here the SMATIC score that we have obtained 225, it indicating it's a more significant in comparison to like this. So at this particular mutation that we are getting, I mean, their SMATIC score is on 39. So in comparison to the others, this particular mutation is significant. So there are the other columns that represent the quality score in comparison the tumor consumption and other, but these are the major columns that are very important. So about the header explanation, you can find details what are those headers at different positions. So you will find details. So first column representing the chromosome, then position, reference base. So this is how you can get details regarding each kind of mutational analysis. So then there is a key substitution. So if we look at this, here we have observed that G is actually getting mutated to the R. So what is exactly R? R as kind of Y. So these, I mean, in the DNA, we have major 4 nucleotides, that A, T, C, G. So besides, so what are these kind of M, Y, C? So you can get this kind of information under the key substitution. Okay. So that's what I can know. This key substitution will be indicated by this key substitution, like here. M means your particular that now it get replaced with the dinucleotide. It's kind of that is you have initially G, so it gets substituted with this AT. So similarly, Y is like indicating CT. So it could be a dinucleotide, it could be a trinucleotide. So it's kind of insertion of the frame shift mutations that we are talking about, that it inserts multiple nucleotides at particular position. So regarding all those, but kind of these nucleotide symbols indicating R, M, Y. So you can get this detail under this key substitution. I hope every one of you able to understand this thing. Just let me know about that. So I hope, Ekano, you got your answer. Just let me know whether you got answer, what is indicated by MY. So it could be a multiple nucleotide. Yes, okay, that's great. So now let's move to our presentation, back to our presentation. So this is how we can perform a complex mutational analysis in a simplest manner by a T-Bioinfo platform. So now let's move to, so if you have any question till now, just write your question in the chat box. Meanwhile, we will go to this CodeOmics logic platform. So where today we will learn about, I can demonstrate how we can upload the data table in a R as well as in a Python. So just let me know once you are there on a CodeOmics logic platform. So I hope many of you have access to this particular platform or these servers. So in case you don't have access, you can perform your we will provide you video this video, and you can perform your analysis before the next session. Then once you will get the access to these servers. So right now you can just understand how we can perform various kind of analysis using different platforms. Okay, so just let me know. Have you completed your last assignment, that how you can read up data table or data matrix on a R, or you can load, how you can load your data. So just let me know, are you there on this particular platform?
And also, just to add to this, when you go to the platform, you have been emailed a code which you need to use so that you can do it for free. You will get access to these courses. You do not have to pay for them. Please pay attention to the code and make sure that you are checking out by applying that code which has been emailed to you. Thank you. And if you do not have the code, please let me know again. I will email it to you again.
So last time we learned about how we can load a data in R. This time let me demonstrate how we can load a data in Python. So this is sorry, I think I just introduction to data science in R. Sorry, introduction to data. So there are different courses. So let's go to this particular course, that is introduction to the data science in Python. You will find different lessons here. So last time we learned about how we can load the data in R. So today we will go how we can load data in Python. So if we go to this, so it's kind of similar lessons. It's that was in R. Now it's in Python, the other coding language, that is Python. So here, once you click on that particular lesson that are free, the lessons that are without stars that are free, where star is indicating that you need to subscribe for those lessons. So this is a free lesson, that is loading of the data, loading the data. So are you with me here on this particular platform? So if you are not, just click on this courses. So if you are able to log into this account on Codeomics Logic platform, so you will find there different option on the menu. You will find different options. So once we click on the courses, we will find different lessons. So this is getting started with the bioinformatics, so in R, and there is also a chapter getting started with the bioinformatics in Python. So one lesson that I have covered in the last session here in the Python, that lesson is under the introduction to data science. So introduction to data science in Python, once we click on this, so the first lesson that we will get loading the data. So in this lesson, this complete code for loading the data is explained in a step-by manner. So under the first step, when you start the loading the data, so first step is understand the problem. The introduction provides you details. So what we are going to do under this particular lesson? So like here, we are trying to load a data in a Python or import a data in a Python. So the second step, that is indicating code breakdown. Here, each step is explained what every single line of the code, what it is doing. So like first, these are the code blocks. Here, first we understand what is this code is all about. So at the first, it's importing. It import the packages. So once you import your what kind of the packages that are required in the Python. So like we import the in case of the Python, there are very important packages, that is pandas and numpy. So you import pandas as PD and you import numpy as np. So once you import these packages, then the next step is explaining how you can upload your how you can load your data or import your data. So in that case, last time we have learned that read.table is read.table. With the read.table command, you can upload your data in R. So here it pd dot read underscore table. With this command, you can upload your table from a particular path. So here, this is the step that will explain you how you can your text file. Then you have Excel file with the next command, that is pd.read.excel. You can import your Excel file. So similarly with the pd.read underscore CSV, you can import your CSV, that is comma separated file. So this second step, that is code breakdown, explain you each step one by one. In the next step, once you've done this, you understand what each step is doing. So you just complete and move to the next. So the next step, that is it giving us try it yourself. Now let's start how we can upload our data, right? So here import pandas and pd and import numpys as np. So in this, so once we run these steps, we able to import these particular libraries. So in Python, we have one more option. So like I want to, in case of the R, we need, we can upload a file using particular path or particular URL. Here we can directly export our file. So I'm saving this file at my system. So under the download, I'm just I'm giving you this URL for this file. Let me just save this file first. So let me post this URL. So if you are doing this with me, so let me post of this file, link of this file. I am here posted a link of this file with which you can perform your own analysis. So once I have saved this file, so now I can drop this file here. So as I have saved this file in the download folder, so I can directly drop this file here. So the next step, how we can read this file. So here we need to provide as the next step, what it's doing, it's reading this particular table, that is a text file, with the command pd.read underscore table. So here we can provide the name of this file here. So once you know, let's run this step and look whether we are this file is tab separated. So we are providing separated, that is with backslash with tab, and then header. If we want to do, if we have a header, so then we can indicate it whether it's a 1 or 2 rows, so true or false. So how we can check whether the file is getting uploaded or not? So we can print this, we can directly print this file. So I am printing as my file is getting stored into the DF. So either I can print whole file or I can do a head. So let's try first. Let's complete this file with the complete header. So it will print your sequences. So beside, we can also do one thing. We can do head or tail. With head will actually gives you the top 10 lines from this particular file. So to check whether file gets imported or not, we can do this. So with the head, it will So this is how you can check actually whether your file whether your file get imported or not, or with the data. So with this you can play differently. So with under this playground you can try your own different CSV file, TSV file. You can drop your own file here, then you can read that file and you can play with it under this particular. So the next command under the as that was table, read underscore table. So next is you underscore CSV will read a CSV file that is comma separated. Then you can also check what kind of this with this command df dot d type will indicate you can view your data here. So it will let you know what kind of data you have. So this is how you can play and upload your file. So you can also upload your own file under the drop file function. So once you have completed this, then the just click on the step complete, then you will get a feedback form. You just fill this and you will complete this pipeline. So I hope every one of you able to get this. So just let me know. Are you able to load your data in? Have you learned about how you can load your data in R or the Python?
John, please look at the Codomics Logic. There will be an email again, welcome to Codomics Logic. That email has the discount code which will give you free access to the platform. Use that discount code and go to the Codomics Logic platform, enter it, and you should not have to pay anything. It will come down to 0. So let me know after this session, anyone else who does not have access to something or you're not able to log in, just let me know after the class so that we can prepare better for the next session. And please look at all the emails that you are receiving from my end, because if you miss an email, then, okay, Matthew, I'll send it to you all again. I'll send it to everybody again with the video of this session. All the details to all the different platforms will be provided except for your login IDs, which will be provided to you separately. Now, please remember that you have to make sure that my email ID marketing@pine.bio is added to your address book. In case it is not added and it ends up in your spam box or you do not notice it, then you will keep missing out on the emails and the information that I send to you. So please make sure to add it. And thank you so much for attending today's session. Yes, Dr. Harpreet.
Okay, so this is for the assignment that you should complete it, or you can complete it before the next session. So first, as we have noticed, some of you have not completed your profile at the educational platform. Please go and complete your profile so that we can understand, we will get better understanding about every one of you. Then please complete the Genomics 1 course that before the next session. And if any one of you not able to complete your Introduction to Bioinformatics and Introduction to Genomics, please complete those courses. So you will get better understanding regarding this. And also try to run these pipeline for visualization and mutational analysis using T-Bioinfo platform. And the fourth one, and complete this coding and how you can upload your data or import your data in R and the Python. Before the next session, we are expecting you will complete your assignments. And so in the next session, we will be going to talk about NGS next generation sequencing, that is transcriptomics, or we will go through our focus will be on gene expression data. So now I would like to hand over this session to Deepsa to conclude this session. So over to you, Deepsa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harpreet. If you all have any other questions, please put them down in the chat box or write to us in the forum. You can always post all the questions that you have in the forum. And each of you who have reported any problems, I will be personally looking into them and getting back to you. For Dr. Giva and for Danai, please try logging into T-Bioinfo again and try using Chrome. If you're still not able to log in, we will try to see what is the issue, because I just tried with the same login ID and I was able to. For others who do not have access to T-Bar-Info, we will be sending it to you by today. And for Codeomics Logic, I will be sending the same details again with the full email. So before next session, we should all be ready with all the different access. Thank you for joining today's session. We'll see you on Friday again.